Well, thanks for joining us here on 13 News at noon. As always, I'm Karen Campbell here with meteorologist Sean Ash. And many of you may have woken up to some snowflakes on your car, on the ground. Yeah, it is still winter out there, but Sean, you were saying that we could see some sunshine.
We will.
Okay.
It's going to require a little more patience depending on what part of the state you live on here this afternoon. But hang tight, friends. But yeah, we've got the wind and it is still a blustery day here. Let's show you what the camera network looks like. You can see in Carmel starting to see a little blue, a little bit more of it there in Montgomery County and Crawfordsville. But then Noblesville, over Morse right now, it's more clouds than sunshine. So we'll show you how this plays out. 36 downtown Indy, 33 over by the airport, Greencastle at 33. Cloud cover a little more thick and numerous once you get a little farther east of I-65. Muncie, Richmond, probably still going to take several more hours before you get to what should be a much brighter finish to the day. The farther west you go, you get into less cloud cover much sooner. Here in the middle part of the state, it's going to take a few more hours the way it looks. Not as windy, but still we've got a stinger of a breeze out there. These are sustained at about 15 to nearly 20 miles per hour. We don't have the 40+ mile per hour gust, but it's an uncomfortable wind for sure. Wind chill still sitting in the mid-20s. It's a west-northwest wind at about 15 to 20 miles per hour. That's going to keep our wind chills mostly in the 20s and lower 30s here. Once we get later in the day, we'll start to see the cloud cover thin out. We've got another weather player coming in quickly. We've been telling you about this all week long. This will be our Friday player. We'll talk more about that. Some weekend sunshine and when we could see our first 70s of the season ahead in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Got it.
All fraternity and sorority events at IU Bloomington are on hold until further notice. We've learned the pause is to address reports of health and safety concerns. Our Logan Gay went to Bloomington to dig into some recent police investigations within the Greek community and talk to students about the unease on campus.
IU has a thriving Greek community, but even some of them say they support the university putting a pause on social events while they address these concerns from the community.
You know, it's never good when police are involved, so I feel like that's caused a lot of issues.
This student says the recent temporary pause on fraternity and sorority social events at IU Bloomington was unexpected.
There's a lot of good events too have been canceled, and a lot of good things have been hurt out of this too. But I mean, I think everybody's devastated.
He's a member of a fraternity himself. According to police, the two fraternities at the center of the investigation are Beta Sigma Psi and Beta Theta Pi. Police say the investigations stem from two parties where attendees believe drinks have been tampered with. In another incident, someone had to get medical treatment after a partygoer threw a full beverage can at their head. All of this happening over the last week. The fraternity member we spoke with says he's also heard of drugs being used, but that his group works hard to maintain the highest standards of safety.
People should understand that, it's obviously not, fraternity's actions or somebody's, a person's actions, and people can make, harmful actions. So I think it makes people really step back and understand your surroundings and, really makes people take, kind of consideration who you're hanging out with and what you're doing and spending your free time with.
That's something these two freshman students agree with, saying it's disappointing to hear what's going on.
Something no one wants to hear about, and obviously you come to college hoping that it's a place where everyone can just have fun and get their education and not have to deal with scary stuff like this going on. But I guess it's kind of a hard truth that we live with.
It's really scary, just knowing that anything can happen to anyone at any moment. I just feel like, you always have to be cautious of your surroundings.
This isn't the first time IU has paused Greek life. They did it in 2021 after someone reported a rape after Halloween. A handful of fraternities and sororities are currently facing some sort of discipline.
I think that it's good for others, to put a pause on things and to let everyone know that, listen, this can't be happening, and if it does, there's going to be consequences.
The pause will end on March 24th. In Bloomington, Logan Gay, 13 News.
Well, right now we are learning more about the initial hearing for the man charged in a deadly shooting outside of a Texas Roadhouse. A judge is now entering a preliminary plea of not guilty for Randy Godfrey. The shooting happened last Friday night near Southport Road and McFarland Boulevard. Godfrey was charged with the murder of Robert Smith. IMPD says the two men started fighting inside the restaurant, and that's when an off-duty IMPD officer stepped in to break it up. Police say Godfrey got away and followed Smith outside before allegedly shooting him. No bond was set at today's hearing. A pretrial is set for May 7th. This afternoon, 13 News is working to learn more about the moments leading up to a shooting outside of a strip mall on Indy's northwest side. Now, this happened near 56th and Georgetown Road around 6 last night. When police got to the scene, they found a person in critical condition. And shortly after, another person showed up at a hospital with a gunshot wound. That person is expected to be okay. Now, police believe that person is somehow connected to the scene at 56th and Georgetown. Now, we have reached out to police about any leads in this case, and once we get them, we will pass along any new information we learn. We are also working to learn if any arrests have been made in a double homicide investigation in Hendricks County. Brownsburg police were called to a home near Main and Green Streets. Investigators found two men, Lucas Brearley and Zachary Johnson, both dead. Now, both of them were outside of an SUV partially parked in a driveway on Acre Avenue. We talked with neighbors who were shaken by what they saw.
I wouldn't say, hey, don't come to Brownsburg, don't come to Hendricks County, because it's still a good place to live. I mean, things happen. There's some things you just can't control, but I think we have a pretty good police force.
And right now, police say they do have a person of interest in this case. They're asking anyone with information to contact Brownsburg police. New at noon, two people in southern Indiana are under arrest after crashing into a sheriff's office vehicle with 40 pounds of meth on them. Vanderburgh County Sheriff's Office shared this photo of the meth bags, which you'll see in a second with 13 News here. They tell us that two suspicious packages were flagged at a delivery facility addressed to a residence on Ridgeway Avenue in Columbus. Now, police waited at the residence for the packages to be picked up. A van later arrived and two people got out to pick up those packages. And that is when detectives tried to stop the suspects as they went to drive off, hitting that deputy's car. Now, those two suspects are charged with conspiracy to distribute meth. IOUs are becoming common for the Indiana Department of Corrections. It ran out of money to reimburse county jails for housing inmates. Now, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that haven't been paid in months. County jails hold felons or state prisoners during sentencing before they're moved. The DOC is supposed to reimburse a per diem of $37 to $50 to help pay for things like food, housing, and uniforms. But for jails across the state, they haven't seen that money in a while. The Bartholomew County Sheriff's tells us that their jail is still owed more than $100,000. In Tippecanoe County, they haven't seen reimbursements for nearly a year. The Indiana Department of Correction says it ran out of money for reimbursements, saying funding for this expense has been exhausted for state fiscal year 2025. And no word yet on when that money will arrive. Well, the Indianapolis Housing Agency has a new CEO. This afternoon, we are getting a look at her vision. The agency has been under the watch of the federal government for nearly a year due to mismanagement. Yvonne Bean officially started her new role just a few weeks ago. She tells us that she's aware of the long-standing challenges at the agency, and her focus is getting things back on track. Bean has 2 decades of public housing experience, including the recovery of 2 other troubled agencies.
Have a demonstrated track record of being able to turn things around, and I'm looking forward to doing just that here. And I want the residents to know that I am hearing them, and we are working on things that will respond to and address a lot of the things that have been expressed as a concern.
And last April, the Department of Housing and Urban Development stepped in and took over the agency. Currently, the agency and HUD are working on a 12-month plan that will be released soon.